If you are, or hope one day to become, a martial arts instructor, what will make you a great one? For me, a good teacher, or instructor, or coach is not simply someone who can explain things well, although that goes without saying, but primarily someone who empowers the students to fulfill their potential and motivates them to improve. This applies to Kendo, which I do, to most other martial arts, and indeed to many other domains, including university-level teaching, school-level teaching, and so forth. In my view, it applies to any complex challenge where there are students who want to learn and a teacher who wants to have them learn. Welcome to Frank Staiano Explains. I'm a professional educator in the form of a professor of computer science at the University of Cambridge, but I continue to be an educator even in my spare time. As an unpaid volunteer, for over 20 years, I have been running the Kendo dojo of the University of Cambridge. I lost count by now, but I estimate that about 1,000 people might have been introduced to Kendo in one of my classes. For 15 years, I've also served as a level 3 regional coach for the British Kendo Association, running courses to license new Kendo instructors. I lost count of that too, but I believe I must have licensed between 50 and 100 coaches. Based on that experience, if you want to become a better Kendo instructor, here are 7 essential tips and strategies that will help you make a significant impact on the progress of your students. Number 1, know it well yourself first. If you are going to teach anything, please know what you are talking about. If you're going to teach Kendo, learn it from the source. Get yourself the greatest possible sensei you can find and absorb everything they have to offer. Practice, practice, practice. If your students ask you a question and you don't know the answer, don't make it up. Say you don't know. And then go and find out. Always keep learning. Kendo is a Japanese cultural heritage, so as far as possible, learn the original from the Japanese masters. Go to seminars, go to Japan, create the right opportunities for you to know the stuff. Number 2, focus on the fundamentals first. It's no good jumping to the fancier stuff without having the basics nailed down. Footwork, kamae, grip, swing, center line. Make sure your students build a solid foundation for their Kendo before getting too excited. Otherwise, they will not be building a solid house, but a fragile Jenga tower that will collapse at the first push. Number 3, instill discipline and commitment. Kendo begins and ends with re. Respect, good manners, and commitment are essential values that must be instilled from the very start. For example, we only have 2 hours of practice per session, so nobody should make other people wait during the session. That's disrespectful. Everyone must be ready and know what to do at all times. Kendo has a strict hierarchy, and it's important for everyone to understand where they stand in that hierarchy. Make sure everyone in the dojo understands that the hierarchy goes both down and up. Both the junior and the senior have duties and responsibilities towards each other, even though they are different in the 2 directions. 4, be the best you can be. Once you are a coach, they won't do what you say, they'll copy what you do. You must always be the best possible version of yourself, because whatever you are, that's what they will try to imitate. This is one of your duties. You might sometimes regret that if you coach beginners, you're spending your scarce and precious practice time on letting them improve rather than on improving yourself. But that's wrong. Being a coach forces you to be better than you would if you were just a regular member. It forces you to go to the session even when you're tired, even when it rains really hard and you get soaked, because the coach can't afford not to go. So be the best you can be for them, but especially for you, for your own improvement. Number 5, it's okay if your students overtake you. If you feel threatened when your students become stronger than you, then it's totally the wrong attitude for a coach. You will then become a limitation to their progress. They should immediately move to another coach. Otherwise, you will always be a barrier to their natural progress. Instead, you must inspire and encourage each of your students to reach their maximum potential, and if that potential is greater than your own, then rejoice, because that means that through them you will be able to go further. Your success will no longer be just your own personal success, but also each of their personal successes to which you contributed with your coaching. Number 6, and this is difficult, give specific actionable guidance. When I was introduced to my Hashi Hachidan sensei, I had been failing the 4th Dan exam for 14 years. In the first session we had together, he looked at my practice and then told me a few low-level things I should do. Move your left hand slightly that way, keep your feet further apart. All very practical, actionable things. Not generic advice, grand things, seme and stuff, but specific corrections for me, based on the way he had seen me move. It didn't seem especially related to what I thought were my weaknesses in Shiai, such as that my man attack was too slow, or that my opponent would often cut my kote, I maybe have a weakness here and there. But he was the 8th Dan, so I just shut up and did exactly what he told me without questioning. And a couple of months later, I challenged the fourth Dan again, and to my surprise and delight, for the first time, I finally passed it. That day when I first met him, I probably had about 20 or 30 things I was doing incorrectly, just in men, but in the space of our first half an hour, he immediately identified just the 2 or 3 most significant ones, the ones that more than all the others would make a difference. And he just cleared my mind from having any other worries by making concentrate just on those 2 or 3. And that is an incredible skill as a coach. And of course, he's 8th Dan, and I'm a million miles away from being able to do that. But that is exactly what every coach must strive to learn to do. It's easy to see that, this beginner is doing 50 things wrong. Now, what is hard and what is really valuable is to have the analytical power for a coach to see precisely which of those individual 50 wrong things, if corrected, will have the greatest impact on the progress of the student, and being able to give the student clear, actionable instructions on how to fix those specific things. That is what a truly great coach can do. Number 7, make them enjoy it. And I save this for last because it's by far the most important one. If you forget everything else about being a great coach, just remember this. They can only improve if they come to the dojo and practice. And they will only come to the dojo if they enjoy coming to the dojo. So, your top priority as a coach, if you want them to get strong, is to make them want to come back. It's difficult being in the dojo. It's hard work. It's sweat, exhaustion. There's always stuff you're not able to do. It's a challenge. But a good coach will make students proud of overcoming the challenge and keen to be back in the dojo. I've spoken of everything in terms of kendo, but actually almost all of these points have much more general applicability. Know the subject matter yourself first. Focus on the fundamentals. This applies just the same if you're teaching subjects as disparate as physics or playing a musical instrument instead of kendo, right? Instill discipline and commitment. Be the best you can be. These are equally important for a school teacher dealing with 6 years olds. It's okay if they will overtake you. That is what you should think in your head when you are mentoring a brilliant PhD student. Give specific actionable guidance that identifies and addresses the student's most important problem. That's the hardest one to do, but it applies to anything from writing skills and language learning as much as it applies to swinging a sword. And finally, make them enjoy it. I believe this must be the top goal for any educator in any domain, because for the student to become truly brilliant at something, whatever it is, the student must love that thing, and there's no way around that. I believe life is fractal, and any small portion of life contains a miniature version of everything else in life, if you look sufficiently closely and attentively. So my kendo practice, for me, contains everything I learn and practice and discover as a professional educator at university level, and vice versa. By striving to become a better kendo coach, I will one day also be a better university professor. And along the way, I wish my students fulfill their own potential, and in at least some of the axes of this very highly multidimensional space, they become much better than I am.